Conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC Conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium and Gale.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Tyree Cleveland! Oh, man! I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Thompson fires the ball over the middle. It's Norrick's got a touchdown! Norrick's got a touchdown! Oh, man! Norrick's got a touchdown!
Ahmad Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium and Gale.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium and Gale. It's your favorite Uncle Silk.
It's Dan.
And Delatorre.
I am back, man. We are back, but I have no video. I'm rocking on a personal hotspot. Shout out to Comcast for having an outage in my neighborhood for the millionth time this month.
I'm sure that'll be reflected on your bill. They'll take the time that they were down and they'll subtract that money from the bill. I'm sure. Great company, outstanding.
I wish it worked like that, but they know they got me cornered because the HOA cornered us to have one person. So it don't matter how shitty their service is, Nick. I gotta deal with them.
Gotta love capitalism, baby. Got that monopoly.
You gotta love it.
Nasty work.
So Silk, want to talk about your weekend. You were here with Ben Chase and doing some things here in Tampa. I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, had a great time out in the Tampa area, kicking it with my man Ben Chase, who's on the world longest or America's longest football game road trip. Had a great time. We got at least 70 kids. With adults, you talking about 130 people. We had a blast. Tailgate was fun. Shout out to Guthrie's for providing food. The sponsor of Stadium and Gale, Allen Horn, helped us out with getting some things done as well. Few other people. I'm forgetting some names right now, but athletic director at USF, Michael Kelly, gave us a boatload of tickets. Had a great time out there. The kids enjoyed themselves. I took the family out there. I wanted them to see a little philanthropy and giving back. Overall, man, we had a blast, man. The visuals are great. If you haven't seen them, go check us out on social media, YouTube, and everything. But had a blast. I know you was out of town in Orlando doing your thing. You and our videographer almost crossed paths on Friday, but didn't. But how'd you enjoy yourself this weekend?
Oh man, I'm in rough shape right now. Normally,
love to hear it.
Normally after these weekends, I come back all sprightly and ready to go. Pretty exhausted. Was over at EDC Electric Daisy Carnival. First time going to that. A lot of great electronic music if that's your thing. 300,000 people, I think, were there over the weekend. So ultimately had a really, really, really good time. Really enjoyed it. Had a great group of people. Got to meet a lot of people, a couple Stadium and Gale fans. Tried to link up with Lion by the Ferris wheel, but it just wasn't meant to be that day. But a really great time. Shout out to the city of Orlando. They put on a great event. Well, it wasn't them. It was just in Orlando. Insomniac put the event on. So shout out to them. Great event.
Nice. The kids got to meet BJ Daniels as well, who was well-spoken, told his story of his recruiting, his process, his journey, where he's at now with things. I thought that was super impactful. We should have some content rolling out with that as well. Nick, what'd you get into?
I actually saw Ben Chase Friday night. He was rolling through. I had some gear, some Florida gear that gets sent to me that I handed off to him. Talked to him a little bit, hung out with Annie when she was in town. So
speaking of vendors,
shout out to Keith, hung out with Keith. And then had a game. Florida came out hot. Stadium was cool. Fiance was home. Cocks. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my fiance. Thank you.
Just pounding cocks. Nick, you forgot to mention that our Dolphins are 7-3 now. Best record.
Yeah. AFC East leading Dolphins. Don't think that any other team in the
may cost you a human's brain, but I get it.
That's not my brain. Not my brain, not my responsibility.
Where's the love, man?
I think there's 2 teams in the state of Florida that are leading their divisions. I don't think one of those is the Jaguars.
Be respectful. We're in the rebuild process. But
Since when? Rebuilding since 98.
Since they beat Marino in 2001.
No, I say 98. We made some runs. We embarrassed y'all in the playoffs after 98. Fred Taylor went crazy on y'all, so be respectful, Nick. I think the record still stands or something. I don't know what it was, but it was crazy.
That was Dan Marino's final game. I think it was was it that 2001 season? But what was it, like 63 to 14?
We sent Dan Marino packing how Run Zook sent Bobby Bowden packing.
Oh man. But let's get on to the show, boys. We got a lot to talk about. We've got some recruiting news. We've got the South Carolina game. We've got the only beat writer that covers Vanderbilt joining us today. But as always, let's give a quick shout out to our friend Alan Horn, who is the title sponsor of this program. I know he works with the Roll Up as well, and obviously does a lot with Corey and a lot of the philanthropic things that we do. So we really appreciate Alan Horn. If you are looking for home, auto, life, business insurance, or retirement planning in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama, give Alan a call at 706-692-2888 or visit him at alanhorninsurance.com. Again, 706-692-2888 and alanhorninsurance.com. All right, boys, it was late on Thursday. Silk, I know you were asleep because I shot you a text, but the internet was abuzz with the flip of Jaden Rashada, quarterback, 4-star quarterback out of Pittsburgh, California, who had previously been closely tied to the Gators, had been committed to the University of Miami for about 4 months, flips at around midnight on Thursday/Friday morning over to the Florida Gators and was in attendance in Gainesville for the South Carolina win. After winning a playoff game, he took a red eye. So, boys, it's exciting, huh?
Just one thing. We've been kind of waiting on this. Have a little respect for time zones, Mr. Rashada. Just waiting until, like you said, Dan, 12:22. But kidding. This is something that Florida really kind of picked up. Florida and Jaden kind of picked up talking back late September, early October. And once Billy and his staff realized, okay, this door isn't shut, went full out. So this is something that you have to give credit to Jaden for reaching back out, the coaching staff for continuing to recruit the kid, and then the Gator Collective getting probably an NIL framework deal in place of what you're going to get when you get to campus. And I think this is shut down. I think that our On3 Kane site had a really good behind the scenes story about what happened. And I kind of got the screen grab from them. And there was a text group among the Miami commits. And honestly, Jaden Rashada might be an SEC quarterback. He hit them with 3 y'alls in one text. I think he's made for the SEC, even being out from California, but fired off the goodbye text. Y'all be great. Y'all be good. And immediately hit that, iPhone, leave the group text message.
Hey, he didn't even wait for any pleasantries after. He just left.
Just like, sometimes you got to send the mail and change your address. No return to sender.
Yeah, his final text was, appreciate every one of y'all, wishing y'all the best of luck throughout y'all careers. Go be great. Fingers crossed. Jaden Rashada left the group.
Might have to worry about him flipping his commit to like a Mississippi school because that's excessive y'alls.
Yeah. Silk, I know, Silk just left. I know Silk did a bit of a rundown on Jaden Rashada. Obviously, one of the highest ranked Florida quarterbacks that they've gotten in the last probably decade or so. I know Jeff Driscoll was highly rated. I know that Felipe Franks was highly rated. Obviously, you had some success with some lower starred players like Kyle Trask, but the Gators haven't been able to get that blue chip quarterback in quite some time, or even when they did with Driscoll and with Franks, they still struggled with where they were going to be, right? They were 4 and 5-star guys, a lot based on projection and what their skill set could be, maybe the talent that they played. Wilger was ranked highly too. I would put Jaden Rashada up there with or higher than probably anybody coming out of high school, except for maybe Will Greer, obviously a prolific passer in North Carolina. But Jaden Rashada is the kind of guy that you need to get and the kind of guy that you need to get to win at the University of Florida and to be able to attract that kind of talent to play around you. So, Silk, I know that you left. Give us your thoughts on Jaden Rashada.
Oh, man, first of all, I was waiting all week for that. Like, I think most of us were. Like, the smoke was out there a little bit that it may go down. And then I heard, hey, man, I think it's going down today. I heard that Thursday morning. So I was sitting around all day twiddling my thumbs. Once like 12 o'clock hit, because I know he's on West Coast time as well. So once noon hit, I was like, okay, this could happen at any moment. So I kind of cut my Rashada. I followed him first, and then I cut the notifications on. I was like, I want to make sure I don't miss this. I got some trolls to get off. Sitting around twiddling my thumbs, about 9:30, 10 hit. That's my bedtime, bro. I'm washed, so I don't stay up late. 9:30, 10 hit. I'm just like, man, what a letdown, man. I thought I was gonna be able to get some tweets off. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I fell asleep. I'm an early sleeper, but I'm an early riser. I woke up at 3 a.m. I see Dan was like, wake up. Dan texted me a bunch of wake up.
Dan's doing everything but like standing over you with a spoon and a pan.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I know his wife wouldn't want me calling him. So I shot him the text and like, dude, I don't know like how you keep your phone on at night. It's probably on silent, but maybe this will get you to hop on the internet. We were having a field day over there. A lot of receipts were pulled. A lot of the make it a quote pictures were pulled from a particular Miami NIL participant, but ultimately a very, very fun night, Thursday night, Friday morning over here on the East Coast. The internet was hopping.
Bro, I woke up in like the greatest mood, man. I did wake up. So at 3 a.m, I wake up, I hop up, and I said, oh my God, it's about to be a beautiful day. My wife's like, what the hell's going on at 3 a.m? I was like, go back to sleep. I'm sorry, but it's about to be a beautiful day. I got up and started organizing my trolls accordingly. But a great get. Like you can't like guys, they didn't give up. We had a quarterback in this class. Not mad at the Marcus Stokes take at the time, but to be able to close the gap on Georgia, you got to get elite talent. And Jaden Rashada is that type of guy. We don't know what Anthony Richardson's going to do. But you want as much competition, elite competition in that room as you can. Iron sharpening iron. So maybe that may elevate Marcus Stokes' play. But a good get. The kid made a good decision. Miami is abysmal. It would have been a bad business decision. Even if the immediate money was more, just looking for the big picture wise, it was going to be a bad decision. So great get by the staff. I'm glad they can have him come in this weekend. Look beautiful with him hanging out with all those guys this weekend. We got our guy.
Yep. And Marcus Stokes has said that he wants to play at Florida still and with Jaden. He welcomed into the class with open arms.
It is your song of the week. Maybe a little applies this week.
Ran off California twice. That's the best part of it. The best part about this is that Ruiz still got to do that NIL deal. So he's paying the Gators. So shout out to that guy.
Appreciate you, John. Always have. Just to run a little bit about Jaden Rashada.
They always have. It's hilarious.
6'3" and a half, 185 pounds. Like I said, from Pittsburgh, California, which is in the Bay Area. Pittsburgh High School. On3 Consensus has him ranked as the 61st overall player in the country, number 7 overall quarterback, and number 6 player in the state of California. On3 has him ranked 192nd overall in their rankings, but ESPN has him at 27, 247 has him at 17, and Rivals at 59 nationally. So, Nick, I need you to call in some favors and push him up a little bit.
Yeah, it's time to shift some things.
Yeah.
Hey, ESPN's rankings are a joke.
Not
in this one instance. I'm saying overall.
Yeah. But 247's got him ranked 17.
Yeah.
Rivals got him 59. So great get for the University of Florida. But want to talk about some other things with recruiting as well. FSU offensive line commit Lucas Simmons was in town. You might remember Lucas Simmons, originally from Sweden, correct?
For sure.
6'7", 295-pound offensive tackle, came back to the University of Florida, committed to Florida State over the summer. I know Florida's continued to recruit him. He's ranked as the number 108 overall player in the country on the On3 consensus for 10 overall offensive tackle. What I'm seeing here and what we're going to talk about with Mark Fletcher here in a second is just a willingness to continue to commit that we may not have seen over the last few coaching staffs, where they seem to kind of give up once a player was committed elsewhere.
The Army. Shout out to the Army for us. It's a lot of flip candidates on campus. I don't know how they feel. Lucas Simmons sounded like he was solid, but a lot of people sound like they're solid. I don't know if I believe him. It's late to take these trips, right?
Yep.
And a lot of these are unofficial visits. The last game, I didn't expect this. I thought LSU was going to be our biggest week as far as recruiting during the fall, and then we'll ramp it back up right before early signing day. So to see these guys and the staff strategically get all these different kids, when you get that many kids on campus at one time, like they get to talking with each other and get dreamy a little bit. So hopefully that's what happened this past weekend. Got a train? Was that a train in the background?
Ambulance. Hopefully they're okay.
Man,
yeah, a lot.
The penthouse would have better soundproofing.
They've got three of them out there.
Before we move forward, rest in peace and condolences to everybody up in the University of Virginia. I do not want to forget that. That was tragic. To wake up to that, it's just the violence is insane. The school shootings is always crazy, but it's rarely that it hits college football this close. And that was just a scary situation and just sad. But condolences to everybody and prayers out to everybody involved.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super sad situation. The Roll Up has a Virginia podcast, and they shot a text to the group chat this morning, kind of before it hit everything. And it was super tragic. Obviously a terrible situation there. Prayers to their family. And Corey, I know that you were looking at ways to try to figure out a way to help out. So I certainly appreciate your generosity in those families, the staff, the students, and everybody else that's involved are certainly in our thoughts and prayers. Not to change the subject too rapidly, but I know that that running back Mark Fletcher from American Heritage down in South Florida. Nick, was that your arch nemesis at St. Thomas?
No, we didn't. They were smaller. So we didn't really play them that much. We were 5A, and I think at the time they were 3A. I mean, now that's when everything stopped at 6A. Baseball was Nova. Football, there was nobody that really competed. Deerfield Beach kind of became a rival because Denard Robinson was there.
Yep.
But St. Thomas would have ran American Heritage off the football field at the time when I was there. Now they've gotten a little better. They've gotten a little better. But at the time when I was in school, American Heritage and St. Thomas didn't play, and it wouldn't have gone well for them if it had.
Well, from American Heritage, running back 6'1", 225-pound Ohio State commit Mark Fletcher was on campus. He is ranked as the 260th national player on the composite, the number 15 running back overall, 53rd best player in the state of Florida. Obviously, the Gators have one in Trayon Webb at running back, but it does seem like the Gators are going to be looking to add potentially 2 running backs to this class. So, Silk, Nick, have you heard anything about Mark Fletcher's visit?
Seems to be looking around. I didn't hear anything about the visit in particular. He was at Miami for the Miami-Florida State game. So, just my opinion, it looks like he's trying to stay within state. And Miami wasn't a pretty look. Feeling good. He's a big back, big guy, big bruiser. Him and Trayon Webb aren't speedsters, so if we are going 3 running backs, hopefully that third guy is a guy that has higher top end speed. But 2 very good running backs. I love Fletcher a lot. Wanted him over the summer, but didn't look like there was an opportunity for us. Now things are changing a little bit, and we can upgrade the room. I do think we have 2 exit as well. I don't know. I don't want to put it all out there. It's kind of writing's on the wall with who may leave, but I think we lose 2 running backs, so it may be a need to get 3.
I think the as the time gets closer to signing the NLI, the National Letter of Intent, that distance from South Florida to Columbus is becoming more real, and I think like what Soap just said, that the prevailing thought is that he's looking to stay a little bit closer to home, a little bit closer to the family.
Yeah, and I think
it's looking like that for Baxter a little bit too. He's been to Florida State like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. I don't think that's about accident either. I think he's curious about not, or I don't know, man. When it's time to sign that letter of intent, Texas sounds far. I don't care how much money it is. My bad. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, I think if you look at the way that Florida's using their running backs this year, I think it's definitely an enticing offense. Obviously, you've seen Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne have great seasons out of the backfield, and I think that Florida's going to continue to do that and continue to rely very much on that rushing attack. And I think it looks like an offense where there's not only opportunity to come in and play pretty early, but an opportunity to be able to pound the rock, which is obviously what a lot of these guys want to do. And with the constant rotation that Florida does have at running back, there is going to be a need for multiple bodies in there. So getting a guy like Mark Fletcher to add in with Trayon Webb, and then in the 24 class, you go after a Jarrett Gibson, something like that, and you're starting to look like you have a very long and good funnel of running backs to continue in this offense.
I got a question. Best running back duo since Fred and Elijah Williams?
Kelvin and
Mark
Matt
Thompson?
had Mark.
Oh, Matt
no,
Thompson.
not Mark Thompson.
Adam Lane?
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones.
They had that unbelievable game in Jacksonville against Georgia.
Yeah,
Man,
like
can you imagine if Damon Pierce was able to run the ball? Highest ranked rookie, according to Pro Football Focus this year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think they're gonna drag that tape his whole career, man. Mullins gonna be known for benching Damian Pierce more than anything, and I like that for him.
I like it to hang over his head forever. We do have a question in here, so we appreciate the super chat donation. Any opinion on who would be the most important guy to get next?
John Walker, defensive
like that
tackle, is a huge need. We missed out on Caden McDonald. John Walker's committed to UCF. I think he's the biggest need left on the board. I would say offensive tackle with Lucas Simmons or Sam Ukunlola, but right now I will go John Walker.
I like that take, Nick.
Unless there's a flip, there could be some flips down the road. I don't know that we always need to talk about what's happening at IHOP, as Florida's trying to flip some people, but there could be some flips, but I'll go with John Walker in terms of just piggyback off Corey there.
Yeah, no, Silk, you made a great judgment call there. I'll agree that John Walker, I think that Florida is in desperate need of defensive tackles, and I think John Walker would be a great guy to be able to fill that gap. Florida does need to improve in the trenches, so I would say if they could also find one more offensive lineman, they are going to be losing a couple people off that offensive line this year. In recruiting for the last few years, while hasn't been abysmal on the offensive line, probably not up to the standard that Florida needs when you look at the offensive lines that continue to be successful for the most prominent teams in America. Florida's got to continue. So if they can go after a guy like Sampson and be able to get him in, or if they can be able to get in one of the more higher ranked, Lucas Simmons, a higher ranked offensive lineman, I think that would be the most important need. I'm confident, in Florida's defensive back group. Jakeem Jackson announced that he's all locked in with Florida after visiting Miami last week, and Mr. Ruiz had some tweets about him flipping. So that was good to see him locking down. So I'm pretty confident overall. Maybe some help at linebacker. They probably need an additional body or there too. But I would definitely say that the defensive tackle position is probably the most important.
Yeah, for sure. I got an opportunity to make to put together a real good offensive line though, with just the possibilities on the board, the flips that could possibly happen, and what we already got. It could be a really good offensive line class compared to what we got with Hevesy. A lot of guys with potential. Did we hear anything on? Why is his name escaping me right now? The offensive lineman that previously committed to us is at Miami right now as a commit. Was he on campus?
Tommy Kinsler.
Kinsler.
Yeah. Tommy Kinsler was there was a scoop that he was going to be attending Florida this weekend. Ultimately, I don't believe that he did. He put out a ransom note with a number of the other commits from Miami saying that they were locked in and locked down, but he did not make it to campus this weekend. But I know Florida is still in communication with him. And he's obviously been committed, been to Florida multiple times. I don't know if he needs another visit, at least publicized, to be able to secure or lock that decision in.
Nice.
Well, let's get into the South Carolina game. A lot to talk about. Gators obviously win big in that one. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our friends over at Dome Hats. Go visit domehats.com. Use promo code Stadium Gale, all one word. Skip the and you will get 15% off of your order. If you are looking for Gators hats, maybe some Jacksonville Jaguars hats, they also have some other schools and some other brands, some crypto brands available on their website. Go check them out. Use promo code Stadium Gale, get 15% off of your order. Created by two former Florida Gator football players based there in Duval County. Again, domehats.com, promo code Stadium Gale. Gators win big, 38-7 against South Carolina. Start off 38-6. I'm sorry, they went for 2 and they missed that. 38-6. The Gators rally off a 21-0 lead in the going into the end of the first quarter. There, really looked very strong on offense. But Silk, Nick, give me your thoughts on the game overall.
Well, there were a bunch of guys on defense that were embarrassed in 2020. And Amari Burney said they've been talking about it. Said they owed Spencer Rattler one for that Cotton Bowl loss. Sure. So that check was paid in full, cashed. Spencer Rattler in the third quarter had 20 more passing yards than the punter. So shout out to the punter, throwing a touchdown pass, throwing more touchdown passes than Spencer Rattler. Punters are people too. Florida's defense came out hot.
Yep.
I mean, after a week in College Station where you came out, forgetting which sport you were playing, and I get it, it's 11 a.m., but came out, 3 and out. 6 plays, 7 plays, punt. And then you come out in the second half, 3 straight fumbles to start the second half. I mean, Florida's defense came to play, and I put it in my story right after the game. We've been tough on the defense, we haven't been wrong to be tough on the defense. They've been buns for a while, literally worse than Colorado at one point of the season in terms of getting off the field. So when they're good,
Nicki Minaj buns, they were.
hey. So when they're good and when they do the job, you got to keep it. You got to keep that same energy. Like Florida's defense deserves all the credit in the world.
But 6 straight quarters without a point.
6 straight quarters without a point for a while. I was saying the only Tony we recognize here in Gainesville is Kadarius, but Patrick Toney, we're putting some respect on his name. You're seeing some more blitzing. You're seeing some more of that creeper package that we had talked about. I think what it is though is that the players are starting to get it. The players are starting to get the defense, and the players are starting to play.
Billy
faster.
spoke about that, right?
He spoke about that today,
right?
Because I thought about 2 weeks ago, and it happened twice. Billy Napier will always stand up for his players, but twice I think he got as close to saying like, yo, it's not us. It's like the players have to do it. And it was kind of like sometimes it's not the scheme, it's the exexecution.
Right.
And sometimes
he basically said they haven't changed anything.
Yeah, he basically said that we haven't changed anything. Guys are just like doing what we want them to do now. Which I get. Like you're this might not even be year one. This might be year 0 for Billy Napier. You had to take down a decrepit house that was falling apart and lay a whole new foundation. So I think you're starting to see this team turn the corner. Whatever the hell Ventrell Miller said in that visiting locker room in College Station, snap some people out of it.
Yeah, no, Nick, you make the defense was incredible. Watch the game. I want to give a quick shout out to watch the game. I'm sorry, right before we hopped on here. Shout out to Miguel Mitchell and Rashard Torrance on that fumble that they had. Miguel Mitchell, Silk, I know that's your boy, starting to play some really good football. Do want to give Trey Dean a shout out too. Had a couple of good plays, a sack, a fumble recovery, really, really strong game from Trey Dean. I think it was his best overall when you look at the stats. Big Desmond Watson.
Oh, man, what a beautiful play.
With a strip fumble recovery, takes it down. Heisman's Spencer Rattler almost gets to a touchdown. Would that have been one of the most prolific moments in Florida Gator football history?
I felt the ground shake when he fell. When he fell, I felt the ground shake, and I was in Tampa.
That would have been that. Listen, it would have rivaled another South Carolina moment. Big Dez finds his way into the end zone. We're talking Jarvis. We're talking Jarvis Moss cock block levels of insanity. And it might have just been me in the press box. I was like, Dez was running, and I was like, oh my god, get him some oxygen. He threw a stiff arm. When he switched the ball, when he saw he saw
Fat boy dream, Nick. That's a fat boy dream, man. That, bro. He's like,
Des Watson saw a guy coming and goes, oh, hold on, ball security. Boom. And I'm like,
switch arms.
Yeah, he
refrigerator Perry.
Athlete's athlete, baby. He just switched arms like he's a natural, bro.
He's just a big athlete, my guy.
Yeah, he was holding on to that ball like this was. He's probably the type of guy that walked around high school, walked around middle school with a football held up right next to him. They're like, oh, you play running back. It's like, no, but I know my time's going to shine here soon.
Mm-hmm. One day. That's a fat boy dream, man.
Now, here you go. So I got a challenge for Patrick Toney because now I'm having visions of Des Watson being handed the ball off. They have Billy Napier. Billy Napier said, they have a standing offer. If the defense is top 10 in total defense or scoring defense, top 10 in the country, defensive guys can get in on a goal line package. And maybe you don't need to hand them the ball. Maybe you need a fullback.
I like the incentive.
A 415-pound fullback leading the way. So I need Florida next year. I need Florida defense next year. Whatever. That's fine. So I just need to see it.
On that play, he fought all. He was getting double team on that play.
He stopped the running back with one arm. Held a grown human who's on scholarship in the SEC in place with one arm, and then like it was a cookie jar, just put his other hand in, grabbed the ball,
grabbed the cookie,
and took off.
Yeah. He was so secure by his ball security as a running back that when they called it a fumble, he was like, hell no.
No, he just stood on the field waiting for that to be shown on the Jumbotron.
Look at the screen, man. Hell no. I ain't fumble that.
Yeah, that was about as excited as I've seen the Gator sideline in a long time.
Yeah, that was good vibes, man.
Javon said, I asked Anthony, I said, what happened? What would you guys have done? Because that was a crazy celebration. They literally swarmed him. I said, what would the celebration have been if he had gotten in the end zone? He was like, I think we would have just run in the locker room. Like we would have just called game, said thank you, and we all would have just like headed in the locker room. Javon said that Dez's reasoning was, and I think he told Alex Shepard this too down the field, that when he switched the ball, he had a little sweat. Arms were a little moist, and he felt the ball security lacking, and he just decided to go down with the ball instead of fumbling it. So My guy has a running backs mentality
He
playing
sure
nose
does.
tackle.
Desmond Watson, Pro Football Focus, rated him the best player on defense in that game. He only played 18 snaps, but gave him a 94.7 overall, a 96.9 on rush defense. So 2 stops, 1 forced fumble, and 1 moment that I know that he will never forget. Rashard Torrance, Tyreek Sapp, Jordan Hill, and Princely Uman-Milan round out the top 5 for the Gators on defense. Overall, great to see them again. Obviously got spooked a bit. Special teams did on that touchdown, or else they would have put up a 0 in the score column for South Carolina. But Gators ultimately do shut them down on defense, play Vanderbilt this upcoming weekend. We'll talk about that more here in a bit, but have another week to put some things more together against Vanderbilt, where they'll ultimately finish off the season against Florida State, who has a pretty strong rushing attack and a mobile quarterback. So great to see some things starting to click together on defense. Chris Williams mentioned it here in our chat. Thought it was funny as well. Seeing Ventrell Miller fake the hamstring pull and then dance on South Carolina was great. He pulled the gritty on him. I think the official was looking at him. He looked injured, went to grab his knee, and then just dances around a little bit. So looks like they might even be having a little bit more fun out there as well. So great to see. Obviously started off the season rough, but as they start to get together and put things together, hopefully they can continue to improve. And, the Gators have 3 more games to go. Any more thoughts on defense before we move to the offensive performance?
Yeah, for sure. I thought they did a great job holding Spencer Rattler in check, who was starting to trend a little bit and get better as the season progressed himself. But he's a guy that could break the pocket without Brent Cox. When Brent Cox was here, we had an issue with contain. So him not being there, it looks like we're containing better. And everybody's playing more disciplined football, especially in the trenches. So it was good to see that. Kamari Wilson, I think, forced a fumble as well. He got 26 snaps in. The young boys get a lot of play. Miguel Mitchell is my guy. He's just always around good shit, like tackles for losses, fumbles, things like that. He's running the alley very well. Also, Torrance, Rashard Torrance and Dean. I think they both played very well with run support in the past, considering the opponent. But overall, good defensive job. They played good ball from start to finish. The offense started off good and then stalled, but the defense was solid throughout. So you got to get them boys their flowers, man.
Yep, South Carolina was 6-3 before the Gators ultimately win that game.
Third down, we were 3 of 11 this time. We held South Carolina to 3 of 11, which was another struggle. So just steady improvement.
Yeah, no, we talked a little bit about that last week too after the Texas A&M game, but they've allowed 50% or less on third down conversions 3 games in a row. Georgia, Texas A&M, and South Carolina. The Gators had previously only done that twice in their first 7 games first 7 games. So you're seeing some improvement. Spencer Rattler, while probably never lived up to his 5-star status and his QB1 status, is still, a serviceable quarterback. South Carolina has recruited pretty well. Jaheim Bell, their starting running back, was heavily recruited by Florida. They've got some players on that team, and to be able to shut them down was great. Just to run through some defensive statistics here, and then we'll have a brief intermission and welcome Chris Lee on to talk about Vanderbilt. South Carolina ran 48 plays, only 243 yards on offense, 28 passes for 189 yards, only 6.75 yards per play. And they had 20 rushes for only 68 yards. So things that you love to see in that game against South Carolina. So at no point did the statistics ever have Florida worse than a 71% chance to win that game. And it got up to 100% in the first quarter. So really strong performance by defense. But let's get Chris Lee on from Rivals.com to talk about Vanderbilt. But before we do that, let's give a quick thank you to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Visit homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale. Get 15% off of your order. A bunch of new Gators apparels there. They've got about 80 different schools now, a couple of different NFL franchises as well. Now go visit homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale at checkout and get 15% off of your order. And with that, we welcome what we believe is to be one of the only Vanderbilt beat writers out there, Chris Lee from Rivals.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of us. I don't know if that says something good or bad about me, but it says something.
I love that.
You cornered the market, Chris.
That's right.
Well,
You pushed everybody out.
Right. There wasn't a lot of competition for that, but anyway.
Well, you get to live in Nashville, which is my favorite SEC road trip biannually. We're looking forward to being in Nashville so much that we're not flying out till Monday. Going to have a nice little Sunday in Nashville.
Wow.
I might have to go shopping. Don't know if I have clothes for that. Might have to wear my ski clothes with weather in the 30s. Billy Napier told his kids this week. He told his players this week. We're talking about. He goes, it's going to be cold. And that's the last we're talking about it.
Yep. A high of 42, low of 23 is what it looks like now. Chris, want to go over Vanderbilt. Started off the season with a couple of wins against Hawaii and Elon, lose to Wake Forest, and then beat Northern Illinois. Then they go on a streak of losing 5 in a row. But big upset over number 24 Kentucky this past weekend, winning 24-21, a game the Gators could not win earlier this season. So, Chris, give us your thoughts on Vanderbilt's performance this last weekend and kind of where's their head at right now.
Well, I thought it was a good matchup for them. They could do what you needed to do to beat Kentucky. They got some pressure up the middle, really bothered Levis, who I don't think is 100%. They ran the ball really well. They had, I'm not going to say a surprise starter with Mike Wright at quarterback, but A.J. Swan had been their guy for a while, was concussed. I guess Kentucky knew that was coming, but Vanderbilt just kind of did its thing. It ran the ball really well. Ray Davis was good. Wright was good. They made some big passes when they needed them. They got a couple of stops when they needed them. They blocked a field goal. And they just did a lot of little things to win ball games. And look, it had been 1,120 days since they won an SEC game.
Wow.
Shout out to Missouri.
That is. Derek Mason got a couple more years for that one. But look, it's hard to win a game under those circumstances. Vanderbilt was down 2 starting linemen, was without its starting quarterback. You had the Dan Jackson mess last week that made headlines. It was a distraction. Clarkley had the flu this week. Some guys on the team had the flu this week. I mean, that's a lot of stuff going up against you. And then you lead the whole game. Chris Rodriguez breaks off a run for 75 yards and scored. And look, he can do that against a lot of teams. But to come back from all that, to convert a 4th down or 2 on the final drive, to win on the road in the cold, that was a pretty big accomplishment for them.
Do you mean it's hard to win a game when you're Vanderbilt, or with all the other stuff that you said?
Yes.
But jokes aside, like that's Clark's first SEC win. I saw a little bit of his on-field after that, kind of getting emotional. Momentum is real, and Billy Napier is big, on the Saban rat poison. So he made sure to mention that Vanderbilt has some momentum. It's going to be a different Vanderbilt team that shows up Saturday morning in Nashville, because of that win. What's your sense about the team not having to hear, Chris Lee continue counting days or fans continue counting days? What's the sense of the team just getting that monkey off their back?
Well, all jokes aside, Clark Lee's done a really, really good job. I mean, everybody knows how hard it is to win at Vanderbilt for all the reasons. I went to practice last week, and we only get about 10 minutes of access, and we can't really report. So I'm watching body language and things. And again, this is a team that has just been beaten down in so many ways. But you go back and look the last couple of games before I get into practice. They had a chance against Missouri to win in the final 2 minutes, couldn't convert a 4th and short. They were had a chance-ish against South Carolina midway through the third quarter, moved the ball in that game, just made too many mistakes against a team that, ironically, in Carolina had made a ton of mistakes, and they didn't give Vandy a chance with what they normally do in coughing the ball up that day. So 2 games in a row, probably their best 2 chances to win, right? So they're going into that. Everybody's down on them. You got the distractions. I go to practice, and they've got Davion Davis, who's their best defensive line, hadn't played a snap all year because of injury, may or may not play. And I look at how hard he's going at it in practice with nothing at stake. I mean, again, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. They've got this losing streak, all these things. I look around, the body language is good. I'm thinking, win or lose, it's a good spot to have your team in that kind of place. So, yeah, they've got the mentality. They're starting to develop some guys. And, like, before the season, each of the last 2 years, the thing that I said over and over was you can't look at that roster and identify a lot of players that do stuff that other teams would want. Well, now you can start making a list of guys. They've got a pretty good receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Will Shepherd and Quincy Skinner, Jaden McGowan. They've got 2 quarterbacks who have won awards from the league this year, and A.J. Swan and Mike Wright. Their third quarterback hadn't thrown a pass. He's had 300-yard passing games in the league before. They're starting to get guys in C.J. Taylor, DeRicky Wright, Ethan Barr, who making plays on defense. Look, it's not the talent that you guys cover, but going into this year, I wasn't sure I could name a guy that would make an NFL roster on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I can easily name a half dozen now who I think will have a shot. And so you're starting to see player development. You saw a win last week. They're not the pushover that they have been anymore. And that's kind of the progress you wanted to see at the end of year 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going over a few of those names. Will Shepherd, 708 yards on the season on 52 catches, 13.6 average. Good average. Jade McCowan, 10.8. Quincy Skinner, 14.1. So, definitely had the ability, and then, with a number of receptions each, 52 for Shepherd, 38 for McGowan, and 16 for Skinner. You do see that they do have a potential threat there at the receiving position. And then Ray Davis, 181 attempts, 860 yards, just a hair under 5 yards a carry. Definitely not a pushover. Are we expected to see Mike Wright play this weekend as well?
I think, look, A.J. Swan is their guy. And A.J. Swan, if you haven't seen him, guys, he's really talented. He's got a big-time arm. And I think – I don't want to say they have to start him, but they almost do when he's healthy, because he's their quarterback of the future, and he's put enough on film that in this era of the transfer portal, big teams, I think, would come after him. I think he's got a chance to play in the league one day. He is really, really special. Now, he's also a true freshman, and so there will be stuff at time that comes with that. But Wright is the reigning offensive player of the week. And here's another thing, guys. He's also a 10,800-meter guy. He has broken a bunch of long runs this year. He broke a 59-yarder against Kentucky. He is not great at throwing the ball, but when you put him in there, defenses have to account for him differently. He's had what he had. I think he ran for 163 against Hawaii, ran for 125 last week. He is a threat. And with Davis running the ball well, with them having some receivers making some plays, that's a really nice consolation prize. And I think given that Florida has really struggled against the run, I think that's the guy that you'll see this week. We'll wait and see what the concussion situation is with Swan. But keep an eye on that, because he really can change things with his feet when he's in there.
Yeah, 55 rushes, 454 yards for Wright at the quarterback position, rushing the ball. Chris, why don't you break down a little bit about the defense? I know that you guys have a pretty strong linebacking core over there that's played pretty well this year, but give us kind of the sense of the defense this year.
It's not been very good, but it's getting a little better. They've been good in 2 of their last 3 games. No, that's Missouri and Kentucky, which are not good offenses. But look, they weren't stopping anybody a year ago. And so Anthony Orgy's a really good player at linebacker. He wears 0. He's going to make an NFL roster. I'm pretty confident. Probably going to get drafted. Barr is not the fastest guy around, but he just makes plays at times. Kane Patterson backs him up. Patterson has played key minutes in the college football playoff at Clemson before he got here. Their secondary, I shouldn't say their secondary, their pass defense has been a real problem. They have given up maybe more chunk plays than anybody in the country. They have not generated enough of a pass rush. When you've got corners on the back end having to cover 5 and 6 seconds at a time, that's not a good recipe. And they've leaked in the run game at times. They did it against Kentucky last week, although Rodriguez is an NFL back. He's going to make a lot of teams look bad. I think you're concerned if you're Vandy going into this one, as far as got a lot of speed. At quarterback, it's got a tailback. What they've got to do, and I know I'm kind of anticipating a question here, they got to get stops at the line of scrimmage and slow guys down, because what you don't want is Richardson and Etienne coming at you with those bodies untouched running through the line. That's what Rodriguez did that gave them problems last week. It's not a really good defense, but you've seen them get better. You've seen them get more aggressive with their pressures. That's kind of paid off. They're getting better, but they are still, probably still the worst defense in the league.
Very impressive pronunciation for a player that you don't have to pronounce very often. An ETN there.
Yeah, well, you've heard it a few times lately, so.
Yeah.
How do you potentially pull off the upset in a game like this? I mean, you guys give up a lot of points. Florida offense is kind of clicking right now. The run game is really good. I think we're going to go get points no matter who we play. Yeah. But what's the recipe for Vandy to make this a football game and then try to make it interesting?
I think it's going to be mistakes, although if you told me that Vanderbilt was going to go -1 in turnovers and win in Lexington, I didn't think that was going to happen. Vanderbilt was +6 in turnovers a few weeks ago, and now it's even. They got to stop giving up the ball. That's thing number one. Florida is number 1 in the league in turnover margin. It is number 1 in fewest penalties, and that's a problem for Vandy. A lot of times you got to count on a team making some mistakes. So I think they need to see probably a less perfect version of Florida. That's number 1. And I think both teams are going to try to probably control the tempo, run the ground game. Big plays are going to be a thing, maybe who can make a field goal. I think the problem with Vandy is that beating Florida will be easier if Florida made mistakes. And that's just something that Billy Napier has done a phenomenal job with his team, is getting them disciplined. And I think they're going to have to see a less disciplined version of Florida if winning is going to be realistic.
Yeah, Florida would have been 4 games if not for that late fumble with essentially no time left. Would have been 4 straight games without a turnover. It was an issue specifically for Anthony Richardson, whether it was interceptions or fumbling the football. But he's gone himself personally 4 straight games without turning a ball over. They've certainly turned a corner in that regard. One thing that I'm going to be looking for is Florida starting out slow. It's an 11 a.m. kick. I've seen, unfortunately, for my decisions on Friday night out at Broadway, I've seen many 11 a.m. Saturday kicks at Vanderbilt. But Florida looked terrible at 11 a.m. in College Station. This was a team at Texas A&M that was out, like, if projected starters, contributors from preseason was out like 30 guys. And Florida made them look like, 2008 Alabama on offense. So I'm interested to see how does Florida learn from that and show up to a cold, probably not a lot of people in the stands, 11 a.m. kick at Vanderbilt. Do you have to kind of bring your own juice and bring your own energy? And then in less than a week, Florida plays a massive game in terms of in-state recruiting, rivalry, high emotions. 6 days later, you have to go to play FSU. Can you compartmentalize and do everything you need to do this week to win a road game against Vanderbilt, finish out the SEC schedule? So I think that to me is something that I don't know how much it'll get talked about, but something that Florida's going to have to prove to me and maybe even to themselves this week.
Yeah, and that's been a struggle for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has had just an unbelievable of first drive touchdowns it's given up the last 2 years. I don't know what the number stands at. It's gotten a little better lately, but it's been, I mean, the first year and a half of Clark Lee's tenure, it was like death taxes, and the other team is going to score a touchdown on its first drive. and they weren't like 12 play, choose 6 minutes off the clock drives. I mean, it's just bang, 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 and they're down 7-0 before people are in the stands. I think that's going to have to be a thing for Vandy. that it's going to have to be better on first drives. But I do wonder if the cold is a little bit of an issue. I mean, you guys don't see down there the kind of weather we've been seeing. I took my dog walking this morning. It's 27 degrees. And let me tell you, I have relatives who live in Colorado, and I'm out there a lot in 30 and 25 degrees. There's no comparison between 30 here and 30 there. It is a damp cold, and it is not a lot of fun. And sometimes there's a wind with that. So I don't know how much of a factor that plays or if there's a wind. But if you're looking at slow starts, Vandy's not been good, but I think you have to factor the weather in. And Vanderbilt did play in that in Lexington last week. So they're probably a little bit more used to it than the Gators are at this point.
Anthony Richardson spoke for every Floridian. When I have to put socks on, it's cold. And right now in Gainesville, it's
I wear
like
socks, bro. I don't know what Ant got going on. Chris,
it's like because normally we can wear sandals year round. That's what he said.
Oh, okay. I get it now. Or he's wearing his shoes and no socks. And
but yeah, I wore it. I took my dog out for a walk this morning. It was not 27, and I was wearing a jacket that had goose feathers in it. So yes, the weather will affect me, even in a closed press box.
Well, I would say it's not just wearing socks. I would pack 2 pairs because it's going to be cold, and you feel it here.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to look. I can't remember the last time that Florida played in weather like this. They don't normally have a ton of away games late in cold weather environments, except for Vanderbilt and maybe Missouri. And I don't believe the weather was this cold last year in Missouri. So it's been
last year in Missouri was the first time I've ever seen the sun in the state of Missouri. Every year I've been out to Columbia, Missouri every year that Florida's played there, and it was the first time I've seen sun. It was a beautiful day. Maybe Columbia
the only time the sun has shined in Missouri. But, with the year before that where they didn't travel it, you probably have to go back at least a few years where the Gators were playing in the 30s or 40s. So definitely an interesting matchup. Chris, what are some other things that Gator fans should know about Vanderbilt? Anything that fans should be cautious about other than maybe the threat of a dual threat quarterback coming in?
Yeah, they've got a phenomenal punter who they didn't use as much last week as they have. I think he's a potential
You've got
NFL
Nick's
guy.
attention.
Yeah, he can kick them. No, they've had him kick them lower and for distance, but I mean, in camp he was kicking him 60 just about every time without even breaking a sweat. It seemed like. I mean, he's phenomenal. Joseph Bulovas has got a big leg for them. He's been erratic. Of course, he started at Alabama for a few years. And so he's kicked in some big games, hit some big kicks for them. They do have more speed than a lot of Vandy teams have had. Jaden McGowan, who wears, I think, 16, is a little kid. He's about a 4'3" guy. When he gets the ball in his hands, he can make some stuff happen. He's also been kind of fumble prone. And a kid on the back end named CJ Taylor, who's made a ton of plays. If you want to see maybe the defensive highlight of the year, go look at their game against Missouri where they got the defensive touchdown. They blitzed Taylor from the right tackle side of things, and a fullback tried to go at his knees. He just bent down. Taylor hurdled him, hit the quarterback, knocked the ball loose, and picked it up and ran it in. One of the best defensive plays. Actually, I think Anthony Orji knocked it loose, but Taylor was there to get it. So they've got some dudes that can make some plays on occasion, which is kind of not what you expect from Vanderbilt. But there are some fun kids to cover who do some neat things here and there, and those are some I can think of.
I'm a big fan of Clark Lee. I think that he's going to be a great leader for your program or for Vanderbilt's program moving forward. So excited to see where his career goes. Chris, we try to get this out of every guest. Sometimes they haven't thought about it. Sometimes they decline, but want to get a score prediction for this game out of you.
I think Vanderbilt's just going to have a hard time stopping Florida. I mean, passing attacks are what have killed Vanderbilt, but Florida is so good at running the ball. It's so good at holding on to the ball. I'm thinking maybe 41-24, 41-27 type game with Florida winning. I just think that Florida's athletes and speed, when they get into Vandy's secondary, are going to be a problem. Again, if Florida was turning the ball over more and making dumb penalties, then I think that opens the door a little bit more. But I just really like the way I like the way Vandy's playing too. But Florida's just got more weapons, I think. I mean, as bad as Dan Mullen got hit for his recruiting, you can't throw a stone down there without hitting 4-star recruits, and he's got some athletes, and I think that'll end up being the difference.
Perfect. Well, Chris, why don't you let everybody know where they can read your work and where they can follow you on social media, and we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, I'm not a huge social media guy, but I think you guys have got my Twitter account on there. Most of my work, you can see the Vandy work at vandysports.com. I've run that rival site for 20 years. The bigger thing I'm doing now is we started a YouTube channel called Southeastern 14 that has grown from about 300 people to start the year till we went over 5,000 today. Wow. And we cover baseball, football, and basketball. I was really going to cover baseball heavily last year, and I had a medical issue that kept me on the shelf for 2 months. But we are already in the middle of basketball. We're doing videos just about every day, whether it's power rankings. We just previewed Kentucky and Michigan State. We really stay on top of the big three sports. We've previewed every single game in the league so far this year. And we have an 9 o'clock your time live stream Wednesday nights. It's fun to join, and we answer questions. But again, that YouTube channel, Southeastern 14. The website, southeastern14.com. We got some of our content too. But that's really probably my bigger undertaking of the two right now, is just covering the league as a whole. And that's been just so much fun to do.
And I have been a guest on that. Hope I will be. I got my baseballs right here behind me, Chris. So you got a bat behind you. Always love talking SEC baseball with Chris. And you won't believe it, but Kevin O'Sullivan's got a lot of arms down here for this season.
Yeah, that sounds a little familiar for Vanderbilt too. It seems like it's death taxes, and both those teams are going to have pitching. I think the East this year, between Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Florida, is going to be so much fun. You got 3 teams right there that could all probably win the national title. And Nick, yeah, you're gonna definitely be involved with our stuff come baseball season. I know that's probably both of our first loves, and that's always a lot of fun when you and I get together.
And Chris, just because – oh, go ahead, so.
Mine ain't really that sportsy, man. But you like you live a peaceful life, man. How sensible are Vandy fans, man? Like you don't have no stress. Most writers come on here and be a little like they had a rough week or something. You look at peace, man.
Well, look, it's better. I'll be honest. They lost a basketball game to Southern Miss, and I don't get emotionally invested in the outcomes. But when you've gone 1,120 days without covering an SEC win, it gets a little tough to manufacture original content, because you're doing either one or two things. You either sound like you're a shill for the team you cover, which is never what I want to be, or you're just beating them down so bad, which the players are doing the best they can, and the fans have heard enough of it. So when Vandy lost a basketball game to Southern Miss, which was 324 in Ken Palm on Friday night, I'm just thinking, oh man, they're 18-point underdogs in football tomorrow, and I'm just like, I got another week of this, and now basketball's gone bad too. And so
y'all got mad fans? I didn't know they had mad fans.
Well, I mean, look, everybody at some point gets pushed to their limit. I think that losing has become such a disease, and people are sick of it, and everybody's in a bad mood when their team's losing. But I think what's different is that, and I know it's been almost a decade now, but James Franklin showed that you can win here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it used to be people didn't take losing as hard as they do now. And when that happened, it's like, okay, we don't have to be just awful every year is what the fan base thought. So, I think that just having something to cover other than just the barrage of losses that it's been has been nice, because it's, again, you don't get emotionally invested. My weekend doesn't change whether they win or lose. But it does get to be a challenge after a while.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nate Bargatze and listen to his podcast. And every week he does a rundown of Vanderbilt football. So I know that he's starting to get a little bit more excited. So if you've got Nate excited, maybe some things are changing on the horizon, but it'd be good to see you guys start to pull off some wins, because like I said, a big fan of Clark Lee and what he's doing down there. Well, Chris, we appreciate your time today. Enjoy Saturday, bundle up, say hello to Nick for us, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll get you on during
Yeah,
baseball season too.
You bet. Fun fact, Nate is actually a subscriber to our site. I don't know what screen name he posts under or doesn't post under. I've had him on our podcast before. So that's been fun.
Big fan of him. If you
Very
haven't
funny
listened
guy.
to Nate Bargatze,
Yeah.
incredibly funny comedian based out of Nashville there. Well, Chris, we appreciate your time today, my friend, and we will talk to you soon. Have a happy holidays.
Hey, thank you guys.
See you up there, Chris.
Well, we appreciate Chris Lee joining the show. Let's revert. Do you guys want to talk about this Vanderbilt game, or do you want to revert back to finishing up that South Carolina discussion?
I think we've talked about Vanderbilt as much as we need to. It's 11
Yeah,
a.m. It's gonna be cold. Don't no show.
Don't
You'll
overthink
be
it.
okay.
Vanderbilt is 4-6 on the season. They play Florida and Tennessee to end the season to try to get bowl eligible. I don't see them getting there, but crazier things have happened. Well, let's get back into our discussion of the Florida Gators offense from the game against South Carolina. But before we do that, go visit our friends at Alumni Hall if you are in Gainesville or passing through Gainesville on Archer Road, or visit them at alumnihall.com. A lot of great stuff. It is the holiday season, so time to buy some new sweaters and jackets, buy T-shirts for some loved ones and friends and colleagues. But again, go visit alumnihall.com for the best of Florida Gators apparel. Again, great offensive performance by the Gators. Do jump out to a 21-0 lead there in the first quarter. Montreal Johnson, incredible runs. Trevor Etienne, incredible runs by him too. At one point, the Gators were out rushing South Carolina 212-7, which was great to see. But Silk, want to get your thoughts on the offensive performance.
Oh, man, I thought they looked good to start the game. Overall, they had 515 total yards, 374 rushing, just elite stuff from that category. But they jumped out to a 21-0 lead. Third down on offense is also improving. They was going 9 for 15. The running game, Etienne is a beast. I'm so glad we got him 2 more seasons. That 85-yard run was a thing of beauty, not just by him, but the offensive line. It was just blocked perfectly. I think he would have made it. He would have made it to the 5 if it was flag football, right? It's great blocking. The young receivers came and showed some promise. I think Caleb Douglas led receivers in snaps and also reception yards and catches. Wasn't a ton, but showing a lot of promise. And him and AR have a little chemistry there. So they showed up with Justin Shorter and Jaquavion Frazier's being out. That was good. But the second half, we left a lot of points on the field. There's a lot to be desired as far as like just putting the team away. We should have easily got a burger on them guys. The defense kept giving us the ball back. We just wasn't rewarding the defense for getting us the turnovers and the field position and the type of game they was giving us. So just want to see a full outfit. I think if the offense would have showed up that second half and finished the game, you'd have seen a complete football game from the Florida Gators. But we'll see what Saturday brings. The AR throw to Pearsall was next level. People wondering why like the NFL scouts are still interested in him. That type of play, the way he climbed the pocket, it's just like you can see the maturation there. The way he ran the ball, you can tell Billy's pulling the caution tape off of him, letting him just go ahead with these last 2 games of the season. He spoke about it himself, saying that Kittner is also growing in the offense a little bit, so he feels a little bit more comfortable. But man, I like the maturation of the team overall, man, and the offense. I can see where it's going. It's still a lot to be desired. When Billy sends 2 receivers out and it's like 8 DBs and AR forcing it in triple coverage, that's still disgusting work. But outside of that, I see the progression.
The only thing I think that you can point to, and it's probably 2 weeks in a row, finishing drives. That red zone offense and probably, Mark Long has been asking Billy. He's kind of harped on Billy because Billy says, I'm never going to be happy with a game. Even if they win, never going to be happy with how we played and never going to have the perfect game. And I think a late fumble, other than late fumble in red zone offense, you were pretty dang close to perfect. So that's something that I know that they're harping on this week, that they harped on last night when they did their film watch. But you've got to, obviously this week is probably not going to win or lose you a game, but in the following week against Florida State, against some SEC opponents, you can't be leaving points on the board. In some cases, you can't even be trading 3 for 7. You need to be, when you get down in that red area, you need to finish in the end zone, not kicking field goals.
Yeah, I thought it was a relatively average, kind of mundane passing performance by Anthony Richardson. I think he ends up going, let's see the exact number here. I just had it pulled up. He goes, I think 11 of 23 in that game, or 11 of 22 for 50%.
11 for 23.
Yeah, 11 for 23. Just not great. And I think what you're seeing is still, him throwing behind receivers. There was a couple of plays, or especially early on in the game, there was that pass to Ricky Pearsall right before the ETN 85-yard run where he did throw it into triple coverage. Not sure if that was just a one read type of offensive play where they were just trying to see if they
watching that live. I didn't see obviously the TV camera follows the ball. I didn't know what the other options were. Now I'd rather you take off and run than throw the ball into triple coverage, but there wasn't really like an outlet pass. There weren't really a ton of options. I think I even tweeted in the moment. I'm like, that was a weird play design. It seemed like
they do that sometimes.
One option.
I don't know what it is, but Billy calls that shit like a couple times a game where they sending these guys out, and like it's less receivers than defenders. I'm just like, I don't understand how we're gonna score. But he needs to learn to eat that or throw it away. Throwing in triple coverage is bad business.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Just going through, 11 for 23 for 112 yards, 4.9 yards per attempt, does have 2 touchdowns, including the one Silk mentioned to Ricky Pearsall, and then Jonathan Odom gets his first couple catches, including his first touchdown with the Gators on a nice rollout. Looks really good and really comfortable running the ball. He had a great touchdown where he barreled through a defensive player, had a couple of plays break down where he was able to get some great runs and was able to evade a couple of sacks behind the line of scrimmage as well. I think he got tabbed for 1 sack there. But again, you need to see a little bit more, want to see some progression. We've kind of seen him go hot and cold all season. So hopefully over these next 2 games, he can continue to get comfortable. But with the rushing attack, Gators throw up 387 yards rushing, 7.74 yards per play rushing the ball. And that's very hard to move away from if you're moving the ball like that.
Right now in the season, we're 6.1 yards per carry, second in FBS. The best running back duo since Fred and Elijah Williams, man. These boys are hot sauce. Can't wait to see them back next year. We got a question down there.
Yeah, we do. It's a recruiting-based question. So, Chris, we'll definitely get back to you. I just want to finish this offensive performance here. Thought that Jalen Kitna at the end of the game had some nice touch on the ball. I know he hit Caleb Douglas. I know he hit Pouncey for a nice catch too, but he looked good in mop-up time. But a solid performance by the offense. Go up 21-0 real quick, march down the field all 3 times. Would have, like you said, Silk, loved to see us score, or Nick as well, loved to see us score a little bit more as we got into the red zone. And I do want to talk a little bit about special teams here in a second, because I know that they left some points on the board and allowed some points, but overall, solid performance overall. If you look at Pro Football Focus, they had Khalil Jackson as the best rated player in that game, but only snapped the ball 14 times. At wide receiver there, Trevor Etienne. Jordan Herman was there in mop-up duty. He played well. Anthony Richardson and Jordan Pouncey. But, good and solid overall performance.
Jordan Herman is just a comically large human. I was reminded that being down the field, as guys were leaving, and listen, all these football players are big. He is big for a football player. He's
6'8", 370.
Just a massive person. It'll be It'll be interesting to see. You know, I thought coming into this year, you know, you might lose 4 offensive linemen. Osiris Torrance might have like the lowest opinion of himself of anyone in the country, or maybe he's just very humble. He had to be talked into walking for senior day. He's going to be a top 45, 50 pick as an interior lineman. He's probably going to have to be talked into going to the draft this year. This is a kid who had to be talked into playing football just to lose weight because he weighed 400 pounds. And they were like, hey, this will help you lose weight. And he's like, no, it's going to be too hard. Almost didn't play football. Didn't want to go too far away from home. When Billy Napier left, he didn't think Billy Napier was going to call, that he'd want Billy Napier to have him play in the SEC. Just an incredible talent, and someone needs to like grab him by the shoulder pads and shake him and be like, hey, bro, you're going to be doing this for a while.
I think he knows, man. He had senior night, and he ain't no senior, so I think he kind of knows.
He is a senior. He is a senior.
I thought he had one more year.
He has a COVID year. He has a COVID year. But he had to be talked into it. He literally called mom and dad on Wednesday night and said, yo, can y'all get down to Gainesville? I'm going to walk on they want me to walk for senior night.
That's hilarious. He's
So,
like on every big boy, he's like first round. He just on Wednesday, he's like, it's probably my last year, bro. I don't know.
No, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, if Florida's coaching staff, I think if Florida's coaching staff doesn't like force him or convince him that he'd be 100% intent with being like, yeah, I have another year of eligibility, I'll come back.
Switch this up then.
You're like, yo, tell them to send the opposite message.
Yeah, tell me, hey man, they're saying horrible things about you, man. You might want to come back.
No, he's been having a great year. He was the co-SEC offensive lineman of the week. Trevor Etienne was the SEC freshman offensive player of the week.
On that note, he's the first Florida player to win conference honors in back-to-back weeks since Kyle Trask in 2020. Nice. Only the second since Tim Tebow in 2007. And he remains the highest graded guard by Pro Football Focus in the country.
And Florida's had a lot of really good offensive linemen since then, right? I know that we've complained about offensive line performance for the better part of a decade, but you know, when you consider the Pouncies, when you consider the number of players that are still in the NFL on the offensive line, there have been a lot of great offensive line folks that have played for the University of Florida, and I do think that he is likely going to be an All-American.
He's going to get a brick.
Yeah,
Cyrus Torrance is this kid from Greensburg, Louisiana, who started playing football to try to lose weight, is going to have his name on a brick outside of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
And Nick, if memory serves me right, he still has never let up a sack in his career.
I was just pulling up. He has not. I was just pulling up how many career snaps he has, because it's over. He's got over 4,000, I think. Osiris Torrance he's played almost 3,000 snaps, 2,918 snaps, has yet to give up a sack in his college career.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Looking here on the offensive side of the board, when you look at some of these advanced analytics, let's see, offensive line really helped the Gators. 93.
Also, he has no penalties this year.
Wow.
We're one of the best teams in penalties in the SEC, which is also
wrote about that last week. So go ahead and give that a little retweet.
All right, man, I read it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
That's where I got that fact from.
You feel me? I think that's a sign of culture change. And Florida, traditionally, it don't matter what great coach we've had here, we've been highly penalized. So showing some discipline and culture change in that manner as well. So small things you gotta look out for.
Yep. Yeah, offensive line helped the Gators get 93.9 yards rushing, and then highlight yards, which are yards after the offensive line has done their job. Kind of once they get to the second level, there 189.5 for the Gators rushing attack. Pretty explosive, 5 explosive plays. solid, just overall performance. They end up averaging just a hair under 48 yards a drive. So strong performance by the Gators offense. See that passing attack get cleaned up a little bit. There was a lot of points left on the board, a lot of opportunities for more points left on the board. Like you said, so, I did think that Florida could score 50 in this game. I thought they could have scored 50 against Texas A&M the way that they were playing there in the second half, but an opportunity against Vanderbilt to do that this week, just to get that offense humming, because we like to clown on FSU, and I think that Florida has a really good opportunity to beat them, but want to make sure that you are starting to continue to work out these kinks. So when you do play FSU just 6 days after Vanderbilt, that you are able to put up that top-notch performance. But Florida ranks, 76th percentile for success rate on offense. Yards per play was 67th. So again, without a great passing attack in this game, still great numbers overall. I do want to give the defense a shout out as well. They were at the 86th percentile of defensive run stuff rate. So great job by the defense and by the offense. Boys, any final thoughts on offense or defense before we talk a little bit about special teams here?
No, I got to go, guys. So you enjoy your special teams talk without me?
Nope. Nick, you are going to be highlighted actually during this discussion.
Just going to head out of here. Great punt by Jeremy Crawshaw. Sorry, guys, got to run. Bye.
One incredible punt by Jeremy Crawshaw. Pins him, I think, at the 3 or 4 yard line. But that made up for him dropping the ball on a snap, on a missed field goal that go for 2, miss it. They throw the ball, whatever. And then Adam Mihalek does miss a field goal in this game. Turning out to not be great kicking the ball this year. Started off the season a little rocky, got a little bit stronger, but over the last few weeks, just pretty hit or miss. I know Gator fans are clamoring for Trey Smack, but just 10 for 16 on the season on field goals. So Nick, give us your special teams thoughts.
Well, you're changing the game for sure. The game changers are negatively impacting the game.
Got you on the big screen. You got you on the jumbotron.
Yeah. Trey Smack just keeps picking up like these little nagging injuries. Has a groin injury right now, so that popped up. That's why he wasn't able to play at Texas A&M, and it put him on the injury report last week and kept him out of 2 games. He was injured some in fall camp. I don't know what you're doing as a kicker in practice that is continuing to put you on an injury list. But yeah, ever since Adam Mihalek was added to the watch list or as a semifinalist for the Walk-On of the Year award, he struggled. So
got a little too confident.
We're having different special teams issues. Before it was, please stop taking the ball out on kickoffs. You're ruining everything. And now it's not being able to. I think everyone, and maybe it's revisionist history, but I was listening to Shane Matthews and Sean Kelly, during the game. I like listening to them while I'm at the stadium. And Sean Kelly, the call timeout, and Sean Kelly goes, "Yeah, I think you got to watch the fake here." And I tweeted that, hey, Sean Kelly called it, and my mentions were flooded. They were like, "You idiot! Everyone called it." Like, this is South Carolina. This is a Beamer. Like, everyone felt like that was coming in that moment. I'm like, okay, well, I am the idiot because I didn't feel it coming. Neither did Florida.
Yeah, that's South Carolina's, I believe, 3rd fake that they were successful on this year. Their punter is 3 for 3 passing the ball this year. Other than not being aware of it, not
Beamer ball. You always got to be aware of just like special team stuff when you're playing a Beamer. It's in the family bloodline, bro.
Yeah,
I was meant to cover a Beamer.
Did see a change.
I was meant to drive one. So I didn't.
Did see a change at punt returner. Xavier Henderson starts the game, does fumble the ball. The Gators are able to recover that. And then you started to see Ricky Pearsall after that. Do you think that is a permanent change? Do you think that's a game change?
I think so. I think that would be a permanent change.
Makes more sense. I think he's more shifty. It's just like the jet sweep. Ricky Pearsall needs to take over all duties of things like that, like short, explosive, like things you want to happen. Yeah, I think that's the move going forward for sure-handed guy.
Hey, Xavier's fast, but I think there's a reason he ran the 400.
Strider.
Yeah.
Yeah, just struggling absolutely on special teams this year. Obviously, kicking is an issue. Punting has been pretty good, but the beginning of the season we had the issues with running the ball out. Punt return has been relatively stagnant all year. Maybe we'll see a difference with Ricky Pearsall. Florida opted to not have a special teams coach as one of their 9 assistant coaches this season. They do have a few analysts. Chris Couch is working as an analyst, a game changer analyst. When you put an emphasis on changing it from special teams to game changers, hopefully Florida will continue to see improvement there. But so far this season, very lackluster in special teams overall.
Well, Florida fans want a game change or the special teams coach that would take away from a coach somewhere else. They want an offensive coordinator that would take away a coach from somewhere else. Billy Napier, I don't see him not having 2 offensive line coaches. Florida's the only Power 5 school, could be the only school in the country, but definitely the only Power 5 school that has 2 offensive line coaches. If having 2 offensive line coaches is any part of the reason that the offensive lines look the way they have this year, then screw an offensive coordinator. Let Billy keep figuring it out and call plays, because I've seen some bad offensive line play in 10 years. This has been a fun offensive line to watch. And if having 2 coaches is part of the reason, then you found something. You're onto something. And you'll start seeing other teams mimic that, I think. I don't know that you're going to have one secondary coach that you're going to split up, having a safeties and a cornerbacks coach. One of the coaches is your defensive coordinator. The other is a cornerbacks coach that everybody in the country except for Brian Kelly wanted. So I don't know where you're taking somebody out to add a on-field special teams coach. I don't know that Florida special teams game changer coordinator is getting the job done right now, though.
Yeah, I don't think when a lot of folks fire that tweet off, they're thinking about where on the staff they would remove. But certainly an area of opportunity for the Florida Gators to improve on, and something that they will continue to look at, I'm sure, going into this offseason. But lackluster is probably the best way that I can put it. But Nick, we'll give Jeremy Crawshaw credit for that one punt. Beautiful punt.
Boomin' onions.
Boomin' onions.
What do you think about real quick, explosive wise? Final thoughts. I do have some final thoughts. Explosive wise. I just feel like this offense is one of the most explosive offenses we've seen. You can have like your opinion on what the past concepts of Billy's play calling. It's not perfect, but from an explosive standpoint, the amount of big runs we're getting from the running back group, the quarterback, some of the plays, just a lot of big chunk yard stuff. So I think a lot of that's predicated off the run, play action, and all that. But blocking schemes, like everything they're doing right now, it's a design run too that looks like a read option that they're doing, but it's not a read option. When that guy goes in motion, he's pretty much a lead blocker, and it's a great design. We also scored on something like a quarterback power at the goal line with AR with that, and we didn't see a ton of that early in the season. I know they were trying to keep him healthy, but I think towards these last 2 games, and we ain't got to go deep in our back for Vandy, I think Florida State gonna get a high dose of AR and some design runs. I still want to see a draw. But what do you guys think about the explosiveness?
I think it starts up front. It starts up front. Like that, you could have drove a semi truck through that hole on that 85-yard run. So that's where it starts. When you're not having to, Damian Pierce is breaking 3 tackles to get a 3-yard run at Florida. Like it starts up front with the offensive line, and then recruiting guys that have that speed, that have that talent, that can take advantage of, the guys in front of them opening up lanes.
Yeah, the Gators have 4 players on their team that have had at least 5 runs this season. Montrell Johnson's averaging 6.12 yards. Anthony Richardson, 6.61 yards. Trevor Etienne, 6.37. And then Ricky Pearsall, 5 for 117 yards at 23.4. So you're seeing some explosiveness. I think what you're seeing that might not show up on the stat sheet, because to have an explosive run statistically is a run of 10 plus yards, but you're consistently seeing Florida get 7, 8, 9 yards per carry. And even when they are getting stopped at the line of scrimmage, you're seeing, Montrell Johnson had a couple of runs where he was stopped very early, right at the offensive line, and was able to power through for even 3, 4, 5, 6 yards that you're starting to see a lot more of. And if you're able to get those chunk yards, even if it's not 10 plus yards, you're seeing this offense really start to move well. And I think if Anthony Richardson can click passing the ball, that rushing attack has been very consistent all season, that Florida could stand a really good opportunity to end the season on a 5-0 win streak, which would be huge going in, to the offseason.
Florida is number 1 in the SEC with 9 rushes of 40 plus yards.
That's incredible, right? We were a little uncertain about what running back would look like this year, right? I think a lot of us had Naquan Wright as a starter. A lot of us were excited about Montrell Johnson, about what he did as a freshman at Louisiana. Trevor Etienne was kind of a late get for this class, 4-star guy, obviously a good pedigree, but a guy that Florida really wasn't recruiting that we know of before Billy Napier came on. And, Lorenzo Lingard, looked pretty good when he ran the ball there in the fourth quarter as well. But you're seeing Florida have a very good running attack. And I think that you have to give Jabbar Jalouk some credit for that and what they've been able to do. The offensive line has been able to create huge holes, and if that's going to be Florida's identity, that's great. You saw what they did against South Carolina. You saw what they did against Texas A&M. And if they can continue to do that, like I said, I think Florida could end the season on a 5-game win streak.
You count the bowl game in.
I am counting the bowl. I don't even know who they're playing yet.
Might as well. Even though we don't know who you only know who we playing. Like, that's the thing about bowl game. Nobody shows up to them anymore. As far as like draft eligible players and transfers. So I don't know. We may look crazy because the portal is before the bowl game, so it may be deserted. So I don't want to count that win just yet.
What would a 21-year-old Corey Knowles do? Projected, maybe first, second rounder. You got a bowl game versus, let's call it UCF. Not a college football playoff, not a New Year's Six. What is a young Silk doing?
I'm going to get the Beamer we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
850. Gotta get up out of here.
8 series. Hello.
Yeah, going to enjoy that agent money.
Second round, you said, right?
Yeah.
850 me. Yeah, I need 850.
Yeah, you get that guarantee from your agent. You go live high on the hog. You go work out, a couple hours a day at a nice training facility. You have a couple $100,000 to your name.
So it's like, how am I supposed to play a football game with this brand new Rolex on my wrist?
Yeah.
Like, you just can't do it. You just can't.
Unless the collective really update they packages, I gotta go get that 850, baby.
Oh man. Let's see. I don't have the chart for our calls of last week, our buy and sell section. So I'll try to pull that for next week, and we'll do a quick review and rundown of that. Right now the line is, we'll hop into buy or sell here. Right now the line is the Gators minus 15, I believe still. Do you think that the Gators will cover that spread?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the Gators win big. I don't know why. I know Vanderbilt's coming off a big win against Missouri. I know playing in the 40s and 30s is going to be probably a bit tougher for the Gators, but I like the Gators' chances there. Vegas has them at minus 600 at 14.5 right now. So we'll go with that. 14.5. We're all buying that the Gators will cover that. Over under is 57.5. Are you buying or selling that the over under, or that the over will hit at 57.5?
We may have to get all 57. But give me yes.
I'm gonna go under, just because I don't think it's a fluke what we've seen from Florida's defense these last six quarters. And I don't think that Florida scores 50, like Silk said. I don't think Florida scores 57, but I'm gonna put Vanderbilt in at 10 or less points. So I'm gonna put it under 57.5.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't mind that. Yeah,
I like your take on that.
Listen, I've even learned how to be negative and spin it positively. We are growing and learning here as the season progresses.
I appreciate that.
Rational. I think we both are rational in approach to that. Like, I don't think Vandy gonna score worth anything, but I'm also just gonna say, like, I don't want to go too confident on my defense just yet, right? So I'm gonna just go ahead and say that Vanderbilt gets like 17, and then we go do what we got to do. Just being random.
Yeah, like a 41-17 type of game. I could see something like that happening, especially with a dual threat, fast quarterback. Is the defense going to show up the same way they did against Texas A&M in the second half for South Carolina against Vanderbilt? I don't know. I'm going to say the Gators do give up a few points on defense. But Nick, I hope you're right, and the defense continues to get better. Gators go for over 300 yards rushing against South Carolina. Do you think that they can do that again? So buy or sell, the Gators get 300 or more yards rushing. That's a high number.
Buy.
I
think Vanderbilt has been better against, as Chris said, better against the run than the pass. Let me pull up Vanderbilt's rushing defense. Not that much better. They're giving up 164 a game, just a notch better than Florida. South Carolina was one notch better than Florida, and Florida went off on the ground. I think you've found your recipe. In a 11 a.m. kickoff, in a balmy 32. I think you're running the football. It's like, hey, we've figured this out. We can run the football. Like Silk said, like week 2 after a loss to Kentucky. Lean on some people. Lean on them.
Come on.
Anthony Richardson said today, someone's got to feel this 240. Someone's got to feel this weight.
He got me hyped when I read that, man. I've been waiting all year for him to run people. He ran people over this past week. I was excited about that. I ain't gonna lie. I've been waiting for 15. I'm used to 15. We see 15 getting the open field. He's the old 15 when trying to get out of bounds.
Up the Black Friday bets. I saw it.
Up the bets, man. Yeah, we're running people over now. Like he's looking for action. He's trying to get some paint on that helmet, and I like it. So
I'm buying it. Buy the shirt. Run the damn ball.
Yeah, buy the shirt. Available on stadiumandgale.com/shop. Gators ran for 291 against Texas A&M, 374 against South Carolina. I think that's our identity. I think Anthony Richardson feels comfortable. And plays breakdown. I'm going to buy that the Gators do get over 300 yards rushing. And Silk, you bought that too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For shizzle.
We got to make sure that we confirm these things because we did have an error last week. I do want to note that that Corey was right. We all went 5-0 a couple weeks ago. I think he said ETN instead of Johnson would have more yards. Johnson had more yards. It was tabulated incorrectly on our sheet. Went back, listened to the tape.
And recount the votes, man. Y'all know how it go.
We want to make sure there's we're not stealing votes over here. No election is being corrupted over here. Want to make sure that we are accurate and fair to Corey. So I want to make sure we give that credit where credit is due. Let's see, defense. Got a couple sacks in this game against Spencer Rattler, 3, followed up by getting 2 against Texas A&M. Do you think the Gators will get 3 sacks or more this game?
I'll sell that. I'll sell that. It probably depends on which.
I think
I'm buying it. I'm buying it.
Okay.
We're flipping. Put it in the bag.
Flip flop over here.
Put it in the bag. Put my flip flops in the bag. We're taking them out of the store and we're taking them home.
Yeah, I'm buying the 3 sacks.
Gators struggled this year getting to the quarterback, 87th in the country with just 18 sacks this season. Do have 1, 2, 3 games without a sack, but I think you're starting to see some improvement. I think Rylan Powell's playing better. I think Uman Milan's playing better. I think that they're going to be able to get to the quarterback, even as a scrambler. You're seeing Ventrell Miller in the backfield quite a bit. You saw some of the safeties make some plays and cornerbacks making some plays against South Carolina and Texas A&M. I do think the Gators will get 3 sacks in this game. Defensive line does seem to be improved over the last 2 weeks. So interesting to note there. And then finally, turnover margin. Gators again win the turnover margin, have won the turnover margin in 4 straight games. One against LSU, +3 against Georgia, +2 against Texas A&M, and +2 against South Carolina. So with that being said, we will set the line at 2 or more. Will the Gators get 2 or more on the margin of turnover this season, or against Vanderbilt? +2.
You're muted, Nick.
+2 would be a win then.
+2 or more would be buying.
Mm-hmm.
+1 or below would be selling.
Give me 2 turnovers on the dot.
2 turnovers on the dot. Okay.
Yeah, I like us for more than that. Yeah, give me 2+.
All right, just to be different and get a point on you guys, I'm going to sell that.
Very
Say
good.
they get 1. So it could be bad for me, but I got to make it up somewhere. We can't all be in agreement.
When you start chasing the points, you start doing like the fans were criticizing Billy, man.
Yep.
Can't chase the points. You gotta take the gimmies.
You got to
be who you are.
Yep. All right, let's see. Any final thoughts going into Vanderbilt on South Carolina? Do want to mention a few more notes, and then we will get out of here.
Final thoughts is just don't go in looking ahead to Florida State. Go in, show some maturity. Go in, take care of business, and really put a team away early to get the young guys in there to get some reps. I need the starters to go out there and smack these people so the young boys get some reps. But don't look ahead to Florida State in the cold, and we should be fine.
If you are in Nashville, holler at your boy. Think we're gonna have to figure out somewhere to watch Florida State on Friday in basketball. So if you got a place to watch Florida, if you got a place to watch Florida State in Nashville, holler at me on Twitter.
Yeah,
shout out to Golden cooking a little bit. We should run down on him.
Yeah, FSU is looking atrocious in basketball. Losses to Stetson and UCF.
You hate to see it, but more than that, you love to see it.
Yeah.
I like that for them.
As much as I hate to see it, I love to see it. Let's. I think it's a Music City Gator Club has a pretty strong group. I watched a couple games. They're football games, but they might be doing a basketball game, especially against FSU. So definitely reach out to them. Reach out to our boy Nashville Mike. I know there's a bunch of other listeners from Nashville that listen. So make sure that you meet up with Nick. Nick, if you can swing by the Patterson House, get yourself a nice cocktail. Stay off of Broadway Saturday night. Go over to the Midtown area. Go over to the Gulch. You'll have yourself a ball. Let's see. Let's give a quick shout out. It is golden era for Florida basketball. Gators are 2-0 to start the year. Beat Stony Brook last Monday, 81-45. Battle against Kennesaw State on Friday, went 88-78. Play FAU tonight, which is Monday at 7, and then at Florida State on Friday. So I do see the Gators going 4-0 heading into the Phil Knight Legacy Tournament, where Xavier, Duke, Oregon State, Gonzaga, Portland State, Purdue, and West Virginia are all competing in that. So congratulations on your start, Todd Golden, at 2-0, and not to be outdueled. The women's basketball program is also 2-0 this season with wins over Florida A&M and UNC Asheville. They will play at Florida State on Wednesday. So congratulations to their start of the season, and looking forward to watching them continue to be successful there. And Stadium and Gale alum Kelly Ray Finley. Let's see, in other sports news, Gators volleyball is 20-4 on the season. That's kind of it. Men's and women's swimming and diving are 3-1 and 4-1 respectively. So we will continue to watch and monitor them. Kadarius Toney gets his first touchdown, starting to look like an elite weapon there in Kansas City.
A little bit.
Yep. And then let's run through a quick draft board. Looking at Pro Football Focus, they have 3 Gators ranked as top 100 players in this class to be drafted. They have Osiris Torrance at 33 overall, Jervon Dexter at 63 overall. And then a bit of a surprise for me has been playing well, but Princey Umanmielen they have at number 93 overall. Do you think that the first 2 are gone? Would be surprised to see Umanmielen leave, but if he has a good end of the season, he continues to rise those draft boards, could potentially see him leave as well. But any final things before we head out tonight, gentlemen?
No, that's it, man. Hey, it's the flips are coming, man. Y'all enjoy yourself, y'all vibe. I know we had a rough summer, bro. It was a lot of bad PR, and another take on a Rashada. That's why you don't pay people up front, man. Everybody complaining about, why don't Florida do this? Telling other people how to spend their money. It's always bad vibes. But you guys relax, tables are turned, and it's gonna be a good fall, good winter. Should be good times. Go Gators. That's all I got.
I saw Dan resurrect an old hashtag.
Oh yeah, watch the finish.
Watch that finish, baby.
We did forget a question. I'm sorry, Chris. Chris in the super chat while we're finishing up the South Carolina chat asked, without throwing names out there, how are y'all feeling about recruiting with early signing day right around the corner? Give them a number 1 through 10.
I'm at a solid 8. I'm at a solid 8 right now. Just from what I'm hearing, it's a strong 8, and we'll see if some of this come into fruition as we get close to the early signing day. But I'm at an 8 right now, feeling like a bullfighter.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I think 8's a good. I don't know if Florida is really at risk of losing any players that they have in their class right now. Now, there's always a surprise. Maybe there's a push out or 2, but I think that Florida, those that are going to sign early, are all very committed to Florida. I think, it really comes down to these last few weeks. There's a lot of players that they're recruiting that they want to get on campus, and it's a matter of getting them on campus. I know that there was some smoke about some players visiting this past weekend, some playoff games and stuff like that got in the way. Your window's closing. You have about 4 weeks left to go. I'm very confident with what UF has recruited thus far. Now it's a matter of getting those final couple of pieces to continue to get better. But I think that Florida has a solid recruiting class, sitting at number 8 right now. Would love to see them try to jump into that 5 range.
Man.
Yeah, there's a player or 2 that I think that they're cooling on a little bit, and if you see a decommitment, don't freak out. But they are, as Silk would say, and Silk enjoys saying, are shopping on some other people's lists.
Absolutely. Perfect time to go shopping, man.
Yep, Black Friday right around the corner.
The tide came back in. Once the tide come back in, you figure out what's what, Nick. And it came back in. There's a lot of work that wasn't right out there, man. I appreciate some of these teams that struggled, and also the process. Everybody got to figure everything. All this is new. We finna end the show, but all of this is new. What recruiting is right now, it's a serious take. And that's why I was kind of encouraging the fans on here not to sugarcoat anything or to be a sunshine pumper. All of this is fairly new. Our collective, our NIL people, they had a strategy of how they wanted to execute and what they thought was best. So the first year, let's see it play out. And I think it's playing out okay right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody involved on that side that's putting forth some effort and helping us get some recruiting going. So feels good.
Yep, there's a lot of players that I know Florida is looking to flip. We mentioned one earlier. I know that Florida's still trying to get Malik Bryant. I know that Florida is still actively recruiting Cormani McClain. There's a lot of names out there. So,
hey, I can tell you never worked at IHOP before.
I worked at Original Pancake House.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah, I was a shift manager, man. I hired 3 of my friends. We all got fired 3 months later.
I can tell by your flip technique. You didn't spend much time there.
No, I worked the egg station, omelet station. That was my bag, man. All right, we out of here. Now we get into my
You got song
right.
of the week.
Yeah, he's song of the week.
song
so-
of the week, man. Ran off of the plug twice, man. You already know what time it is. Plies. We got to play that because it's about to happen twice.
Maybe 3 times.
Maybe 3 times, you know, but if we may have to remix it. But right now we'll go with
Ran off on the plug thrice. That's the remix.
I love it. I love it. All right, boys. See you same corner, same time next week. Nick, enjoy Nashville.